Hello and welcome back, everyone, to our second losers bracket match of the day for the Eternal Tournament Series Season 6 Invitational. Of course, this is the second day. I'm your host, Bairdrus, and once again joined by my wonderful co-host, LocoPojo.
Hey, welcome guys. We got a party versus party deck here. Combray party versus Combray party. Vasarius versus Moosh. And we're going to be seeing who plays the most Yetis and which ones get across for the most card draw. Should be an exciting time.
Yeah, this is going to be a brutal matchup for everybody involved, definitely including us, since this is going to be a 90 card mirror. So it's going to come down to a lot of close decision making as well as how likely these players' decks are willing to cooperate with themselves. So
Yeah.
already see some hands here.
Yeah, looking at Visarius' opening hand, we have Huru Banner and Combray Banner. We have a Diplomatic Seal. So Visarius has 4 power as well as the Scouting Party to play out nice and early. He's also got Kothan to set up a little bit of an early advantage. This might be a keeper, but it's very low on threats.
Yeah, very low on threats here. And Moosh right now, still sitting at his mulligan screen, does have a Kothon, Amber Acolyte, and Sandstorm Titan. So I feel like we're going to see a keep out of that one as well. Sandstorm Titan, definitely a big card in this matchup, can bash for a lot of damage super early.
Also is a card that can attack offensively while defending against Scouting Party. The more that you establish against Scouting Party, the better off you are. And these decks both seem to be a little bit like removal light, so if they can actually deal with the Scouting Parties, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, wow. And Visarius actually went for a mulligan here. Kind of interesting, but I'm guessing he's played this mirror matchup enough times and play tested it to know that he needs something a little more aggressive out of the gate. And he certainly draws that. Going to have the Awakened Student set up as early as turn 2 and his own Sandstorm Titan, which definitely brings this matchup a lot more in his favor. I definitely would have slanted it towards Moosh at the start here based on him having Sandstorm Titan, but now that Visarius can match it and picks up a Valkyrie Enforcer as well, going to be looking good for him.
Yeah, it's looking very strong. He's got a very good curve. Moosh has Kothan into Amber Acolyte into Titan, and Visarius has Combray Awakened Student into Amber Acolyte into Sandstorm Titan. So, like, overall, Visarius's just larger unit should be much more beneficial to him as time goes on. But the main thing here is that Visarius has the curve topper, which is the Scouting Party. That card's going to be very, very beneficial in these matchups.
Absolutely. Though we do see Moosh did pick up a copy of Scouting Party for himself, although he's still missing the 1 power. Same with Visarius, though. You know, they're both lacking just 1 power to get themselves there, as well as, obviously, the restriction on playing power. So we're going to see this slowly build up. Moosh has an interesting turn ahead of him here. He's definitely going to have a few choices. He could choose to get the Awakened Student onto board now. He might also drop the Sandstorm Titan. Sandstorm Titan's going to play well into Visarius' Vanquish, and Visarius might start cracking for some damage at that point with the Awakened Student.
Yeah, I think this matchup might be very dependent on who gets the obelisks or the stand together. So if you can get your Scouting Party to be bigger than your opponent's Scouting Party, that probably leads to a very devastating swing. Beyond that, like, the early pressure is going to matter quite a bit. Like, we do see, like, the Sandstorm Titans are going to be a big issue. Like, as far as the mirror goes, these guys have pretty much the same deck for the next couple of rounds. But if Moosh can stick that Kothan, that would be pretty nice.
Yeah, and I mean, even their hands are very similar in composition at this point. I mean, looking at this board, not a ton of differences when you consider that Moosh is probably going to drop his own Sandstorm Titan on this turn. Although Moosh did pick up a Xenon Obelisk here, this is one of the big cards that breaks the mirror wide open.
Yeah, it's very, very helpful either post or pre-Scouting Party. Moosh probably wants to play a Sandstorm Titan this turn to match his opponent's Sandstorm Titan, but if he decides to Obelisk, that also works quite well for him since it gives him the ability to double block the Sandstorm Titan and also be just a lot more aggressive for the rest of his drops.
Yeah, and we see Valkyrie Enforcer coming out. This is going to be a silence onto the Kothon, as well as the Vanquish coming in for the Awakened Student. Curious to see if Visarius is going to go ahead and try and throw some damage in here.
Yeah, this is a good time for Visarius to pressure. He has that Scouting Party follow-up. Moosh is going to be playing his own Scouting Party, and once that happens, things get very tricky for Visarius, but He doesn't have the 6th power, so it's not going to happen this turn.
Yeah, we do see. It looks like he might have held off one turn just for the scouting party. He does have scouting party coming down, but as you just said, now that Musha is going to be able to drop his own scouting party, this is definitely looking favored towards him here.
Have enough blockers to deal with the other scouting party, and while Visarius can vanquish the Sandstorm Titan, the attacks just look terrible, and the defense doesn't look that amazing either. It's okay, but it's certainly going to be a tricky situation, especially with Moosh playing a second scouting party this next turn.
So I'm curious to see if Visarius is going to go down a line of play here in the near future where he's going to go ahead and silence his own Sandstorm Titan with Valkyrie Enforcer just to start punching in the air.
For 7 here seems fairly clever. He gets to hit the Amber Acolyte most likely, but anything that he gets rid of means that his Sandstorm Titan is going to be better at attacking in, and it keeps Moosh from attacking in with his Yeti, since basically a full-on attack leads to a pretty strong crackback.
Yeah, we'll see how Moosh chooses to block here. If he goes like Kothon, Amber Acolyte, a Yeti, it's very likely that we'll see Kothon and the Yeti get cleaned up, since those are the two most awkward blockers for cards like Sandstorm Titan. So this is a fairly decent attack here. That being said, of course, we know Moosh has the reload here in hand, so while he is cleaning up a bit of the board, he is just going to drop more small tokens down on the following turn.
Yeah. We have the Valkyrie Enforcer for Visarius disabling one Yeti. Moosh still has kind of an awkward setup here, where basically getting the Yetis across doesn't likely get him very many draws and could lead to some pretty bad trades. But with only one unit above the 3 power mark, if Moosh hits 8, that should be enough to attack in and get really beneficial attacks.
We do see the power picked up for Moosh, so he's going to drop the scouting party and the following power, and wow, what a board. But Visarius with the crystallize. Oh man, this changes the whole matchup.
That is a swing and a half. Yeah, he goes below 25, so yeah, that's quite easily a 2-turn clock, like the commanding card in this matchup. And I actually missed it in the deck list, but it is clearly the one card that you play to just win the game against your opponent in this match. So from there, Moosh basically has to play a second scouting party, and that's not going to happen here. So there you go.
Yeah, and we see Moosh with the concession here. Not being able to pick up his own Crystallize, which is really the only card that gets him out in that situation. And we see Visarius with the huge swing there. And that seems to be what's going to be the tale of the game here, as we're going to see both players dropping those Crystallizes back and forth on each other to really swing it. Let me check something in the deck list as we're going into the next matchup. I'm curious to see, there are copies of Stand Together, so that is really the counter here. And once we get into sideboard, both players have access to Backlash as well.
Yeah, it's going to be all about how those cards match up and what you save them for. Like, do you Backlash a scouting party if you're worried about Crystallize? Because there's a lot of things that can happen that are going to be really, really tough for you. I think that this is going to be a really weird matchup in general, because while there's going to be some player choice involved, certainly those cards just define the match in such dramatic fashion that getting any of them off of a top deck or in hand could be really, really devastating for your opponent.
Yeah, and we see Visarius starting with Crystallize in his hand this time around, although we'll see what Moosh's hand looks like as we get there. Double Scouting Party, Awakened Student. Wow, I mean, Moosh has a fantastic hand. And if Visarius doesn't at least get to a 3rd power to put these Amber Acolytes online, Moosh could possibly run away with this game, although lacking power himself now.
Yeah, holding onto a Crystallize doesn't seem like a bad idea, but it is true that basically the one thing about Crystallize is that it's not that useful in your opening hand, because you want to establish the board before you draw Crystallize. So, while it's definitely important enough for Visarius to want to keep it here, he does need to get those Amber Acolytes and those Valkyrie Enforcers down, and he needs to find something to make the Crystallizes worth it, which is going to be tricky. And with double Awakened Student, Moosh is going to be pressuring him the whole time.
Oh yeah, Moosh might be able to just run away with this game very early here. Zarius does pick up a Vanquish though, and he has a Valkyrie Enforcer, so this is good. I mean, he will be able to Valk one of them this turn and Vanquish the other on the next turn. That'll be very important for him to being able to hold these threats off. If those had continued, this would have gotten very ugly very quickly, and Moosh did manage to top deck power here, so he's going to be rolling right along towards his scouting parties.
He has the Xenon Obelisk, which means that he's not going to be locked out of the game by Crystallize. But if Visarius can develop something big, then the Crystallize is going to help him out. I think Moosh has the more favorable hand here. Like, the Crystallize is a really, really big game changer, but Visarius just hasn't picked up anything to push damage. He needs scouting parties, he needs Sandstorm Titans, and even once he gets those things, Moosh's Obelisk is going to be causing his stuff to basically just be a little bit bigger and a little bit tougher.
Definitely. And do you see Moosh actually drop that Obelisk now? I like this play. This will allow him to pressure in for damage if he wants. I mean, he's only likely to throw the 4/4 here, since it looks like he's going to be protecting his 5/5 Awakened Student, though we know Vanquish is definitely coming down next turn for Visarius.
Yeah, getting the Obelisk down as early as possible means that your units just have a lot more value. It makes you more vulnerable to the Vanquishes, but beyond that, it's just almost always correct to get it out as fast as you can, especially when you're not feeling terribly pressured on board.
Yeah, we do see Vanquish coming down here, as we alluded to. Now, here's where things get interesting, because Moosh has double Valkyrie Enforcers, so if Moosh just goes ahead and silences away some of these units, I mean, these Valkyrie Enforcers are 4/4s. It's not like Visarius' Valkyrie Enforcer can block back. And, I mean,
Moosh does not have double green. Oh, wait, no, he found it.
Oh, he does find, yeah, it finds double justice. You were right, though. He didn't have it, and this is going to make the matchup interesting. Although Visarius does find his scouting party now, and Moosh is going to need to find a power here to go ahead and drop scouting party on this turn.
Yeah. That's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So Crystallize for double attacks, but he's got to basically get Moosh out of the 2 scouting parties first. If Moosh does not draw power for the next 2 turns, that would be a situation where the Crystallize is just going to win the game. And with the scouting party, Visarius is going to have a pretty solid time basically just drawing a bunch of new ones, having himself a just grand old day.
Yeah, and you see the other Valkyrie Enforcer coming out, so since Moosh wasn't able to play the power undepleted, Vanquish picked up for Visarius here, and now he's at decision time, whether or not he wants to drop the scouting party. I like this scouting party play here. He's going to set himself up for Crystallize next turn. Moosh likely to use his own scouting party, and while he won't be able to win the game right away since Moosh has the second scouting party follow-up, he will at least be able to draw himself a ton of cards.
Yeah, Visarius takes the damage knowing that a stand together is a win, but he just has to take it here because he wants all of his damage to basically win on the crackback. And we see the first scouting party from Moosh. The second scouting party is going to be the real crucial.
Yeah, and Moosh is going to be looking for an undepleted power, I think. I mean, there are a ton of cards he's looking for here. Ooh, Stand Together, very big for Visarius here. I do believe he already...
Stand Together, I believe, secures lethal.
Yeah, I think he already played power this turn, but I think that gives him enough units. Unless Moosh picks up something big here, but he didn't find a power here, so he's only going to have 4. Oh, no, he did find a power. My apologies.
Okay, so he's up to 3 3s, but with the attack here, that's Stand Together, gets him a bit of extra damage. He's got 5 blockers, so he's not going to get lethal this turn, which means that he might be dead on the crackback. But disabling his opponent's stuff is not terrible to at least make sure that things go a little bit better for him.
Yeah, he will have the Stand Together here, but I do think he's just dead, right? Like, I don't think he gets it. Well, he can Vanquish 1, but he has no blockers on the way back.
Yeah, it's Vanquish, and then does not look good. I don't think he has a way to win here.
Yeah, I think he was hoping I think he was hoping Moosh blocked in a greedy way, but Moosh definitely blocked around the stand together, so we will see 6 damage cracking through here, but that is not going to be enough, unfortunately. We'll set Moosh down to 1, and Moosh is definitely going to have the crack back here, so Sorry is just hoping that the block got a little bit weird, but given that the players are piloting 90-card mirrors, Moosh not going to fall for that trick that he would be pulling with his deck.
Yep, that opening crystallize, it's a pretty big deal to not get the necessary tempo out to get it to win the game. But yeah, I think Moosh's double scouting party did the trick here.
Yeah, I definitely think it did as well. And it was able to clean the game up very nicely. If it wasn't for that extra power, though, I mean, really it has to be said, if Moosh didn't pick up an undepleted power there, would have only been able to play the scouting party and would have allowed Moosh to secure himself a game. Players are now high scores, and fortunately for us, based on what I've been told, this is a 90-card mirror, so we really only need to look at one person's sideboard.
Yeah, it's possible that both players will side in very similarly depending on what they're looking for, but we'll see exactly what ends up being the choice. So we have Island's choice as possibility, so that's pretty good. The sideboard for Mooch includes 2 Islands choices. He's got the Crystallizes in there, of course, Stand Togethers. He's running Kothin and Awakened Student still. I'm not sure if I'm seeing too many changes. I do see an Auric Runehammer in there.
Yeah, the Auric Runehammer is looking very nice, and those will be able to take care of some of the nastier threats, will allow you to clean off Awakened Students before they get too big. And, just will give you some general control on the board. Cards that I definitely see both players bringing in. Backlashes, I have to imagine, are most certainly coming here. Too many high-value cards that you're going to be looking to take care of. Where we really see the split here, these cards are not a 90-card mirror, as I had said before. There is very slight differences in the sideboards. It looks like the one I'm looking at right now is Visarius is playing a Stand Together, whereas Moosh is playing an Island's Choice here. Moosh also does have one more Stand Together. I'm not sure what card where's the difference in the cards are then, but both players have the Stand Together, though Moosh is the only one with the Island's Choice, and it's going to be a great card for him here. Visarius has an extra Desert Marshal. That's where the different decks are.
Ish it into Awakened Student is just an extremely powerful tempo play, and Moosh, with basically nothing in his hand, he's holding on to raw power and a Stand Together. He's actually going to be just fine. Visarius, however, is sitting on Sandstorm Titan, which is something that does pretty well here, but isn't actually going to match up against Awakened Student the way that you want it to. He's got Kothin and he's got Island's Choice, and Island's Choice is definitely going to be very, very good against that student.
Oh, yes, it certainly will. And Student swinging in here, trying to bait him into the block. We'll see if Visarius is willing to make it, and he is not. Likely, undepleted power here. That's actually super important for Visarius. This is going to allow him to vanquish the student and have the Stand Together get popped right now, and leave Island's Choice on the table to take care of it, assuming we don't see another Stand Together. Although Visarius not going to make the move here.
Yeah, I guess he's going to try to throw the Island's Choice first, which is interesting. Oh, wait, no, he can block with the 5/6, and then as soon as the Stand Together gets popped, he can throw the Island's Choice and save himself a power, or save himself a card, which is like a really solid play. That's a good line from Visarius. Or, okay.
Well, he wasn't able to in that case since the Awakened Student became a 6/6.
And that
wasn't
blue,
going to
so that makes more sense.
Yeah, wasn't going to be able to block it at that point, which is kind of why I was a little curious the line of play hook. And Visarius is looking to just get beat to death with this Awakened Student.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to see a forced chump block here this turn if Visarius paying attention. I mean, I guess he can Island's Choice to Stand Together and let 7 roll through, but I don't see the line here, really. We see Valkyrie Enforcer silencing too. Now this is another threat that's going to be difficult to deal with since Island's Choice and Vanquish both missed the Valkyrie Enforcer. And it seems like Visarius just took a bunch of unnecessary damage here.
And he doesn't have a lot that's good going on. He has to chump block with the Initiate here, or with the Sandstorm Titan if he really, really wants to protect his 6th power. But considering that what he's looking for is a blue power, that seems unlikely. Diplomatic Seal, no help here.
Oh,
Um,
I'm
yeah,
sorry. You just reminded me that yeah, he's lacking primal. That's why we're seeing these weird lines of play.
yeah, no, he doesn't have the blue. If he did have the blue, he would have been able to make some pretty good plays against the Awakened Student, but as it is, he's just in too much trouble. He's not going to be able to stop it. We see the stand together, and that's actually lethal on board, so Visarius is going down.
Yeah, Visarius going down, and yeah, I didn't realize that until you just mentioned it. But yeah, not having the primal there really killed him in that matchup.
Yeah,
Not
no,
being
I
able to
missed
play
it as
islands.
well up until the point where he tacked into the island's choice and couldn't play it. But it's just a rough situation where, like, he actually had like a really really good line against the Awakened Student, where instead of throwing the Vanquish, he just sort of could have stood there with the Sandstorm Titan and blocked it, forced the stand together, and then island's choice in response to the stand together, which is something you can do with a fast spell like that. Um, the Awakened Student without it getting stand together, but he never had the blue, so locked out of it.
Yeah, not having your third faction in that matchup is just it's too much to come back from. Definitely in that case, and primal is one of the worst things missing. It's quite unfortunate. We'll see
Yep.
though the fourth game here as Moosh now leads the series 2-1.
Yep. Moosh has Initiate into Awakened Suit in the opening hand, but it's too much power, it's not enough gas, and he draws into something that's not looking too much better. He does find the Awakened Student, so that actually turns it into a good curve.
Yeah, Awakened Student very solid in this matchup as we've seen time and time again. Obviously, Sarius is going to be swinging in first if he chooses, since he will have the advantage here. And fortunately, with the undepleted banner, this also allows him to go fish out Amber Acolyte.
Yep,
Uh,
we see a 3-3 attack there. Stuff going on, but both players are going to be trading back and forth for a little while. Visarius again has this island's choice, so maybe you can pull that trick out for this particular time around. And we're seeing Moosh just sort of pushing in. He's going to be using those Auric Rune Hammers to pretty good effect, I'm guessing.
oh, yeah, and we see Visaris pick up the Auric Rune Hammer of his own, so we're going to see both players go for a similar line, I have a feeling, here, dropping Rune Hammers and trading them back and forth. This
Could
is.
go for Obelisk here, which I actually do like because it gets him above Auric Runehammer, and it also allows him to trade the 3-2 with one of the Awakened students or just push, which really is quite scary. The more damage that Visarius gets on Moosh, the better off that crystallizes later.
Yeah, this is very true, and Visaris can just follow up with the Auric Runehammer on his turn, although if Moosh has the Obelisk, which he manages to pick up, now his Runehammers aren't looking great either. Though he is in a slight damage lead, and he does have the Vanquish, so this will help
This
take
is
care of it a little bit. I'm almost a little curious that he doesn't hold the Island's Choice, since next turn he would be able to vanquish away a unit and more or less secure lethal for himself.
you got to worry about that stand together though. That's just such a dramatic lethal. Like playing the Vanquish while Moosh is power blocked, then he just gets the win here because he gets to attack for 8 next turn and crystallize. But he does not have an amazing option if Moosh has stand together. He basically just has to play as though it doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. As it is, though, we see Moosh with Sandstorm Titan, very likely to be the play on this turn. Sandstorm
Uh,
Titan will lock the board up a little bit. Definitely make it a lot more awkward for Visarius, although Valkyrie Enforcer, nice pickup here. This is going to give him an alternate way to lethal if Moosh didn't have the double Orc Rune Hammer, which he does.
yeah, the main problem here is that Moosh also has crystallize, so a power into a crystallize is pretty close to lethal on Moosh's side, and probably secures a 2-turn kill. Both
Yeah,
players, though, looking for that 5th power. If they don't find it, then it's going to be, I think, Moosh's game.
yeah, definitely. Ooh, Valkyrie Enforcer, it's still unfortunately going to get cleared by the hammer here, but certainly not the worst pickup in the world. Sorry is really just looking for that crystallize, or sorry,
Yeah, now
the
that he's
undepleted power.
silenced the Titan, like, he just needs to keep playing stuff down so that he can get his crystallize. If he can play the undepleted power and crystallize, he just wins. So,
Yep, this is coming down to whoever hits their 5th power first.
Yeah, Moosh hitting fifth power doesn't necessarily win him the game. It's pretty unlikely that it's going to go badly for him, but Visarius might be able to crystallize in response and then win on the crackback.
That is true as well. And Moosh, not really. I mean, he's basically going to have to swing the hammer here, but I don't think he really wants to.
Yeah, he
Although,
went for the Amber Acolyte, which I think
is
if
he gonna? I think
he
he's gonna
doesn't have
obelisk
a
and force the
response.
attack in here.
Oh,
Or
Valkyrie and forced her to knock the flyer out of the air.
sure, that seems fine.
Obelisk and forcing
Almost.
the attack would have lost him the game because he'd have only gotten one block in, but yeah, we're not seeing anything great here. Moosh hit in 5, but does not have double blue. I think this is favored for Visarius at this point.
Yeah, I have to agree as well. He's able to hold the board down, although he goes obelisk here. Does obelisk swing? I mean, it forces Visarius to double block something and trade, but then yeah, he just dies on the way back, so that won't open it up for him.
Yeah, any type of attack here is just really, really easy to punish. Moosh could always attack with something and then like basically force a no block, get some damage in, and then play a blocker.
Yeah, it looks like, I mean, this is one of his only lines, I guess. Like, he goes here. I don't think if you're Moose, you can actually afford to commit even one attacker here, just due to a vanquish, then granting your opponent. Well, it just creates too many outs, I feel like.
Yeah,
You see
it's pretty
Seek
rough.
Power as the pickup now. Seek Power going to allow Visarius to find that undepleted sigil to ensure him the game next turn. Probably commit. Actually, he doesn't even really need to drop Kothon. Definitely now that his Awakened student is larger than Moosh's, he can kind of just sit back on this island's choice.
Yeah, I find it a little bit risky to do that because, like, obviously you want to win off Crystallize, and if there's a Vanquish or something on the 6/6, then there's no way to win off Crystallize. And with this Obelisk here, like, he gets the Island's Choice. He's still got a 6/6, and he's got Crystallize, so I think he's good to go.
Yeah, well, oh yeah, Moosh did pick up one unit. So even if he didn't pick up the unit, though, he had the Auric Runehammer, or even though he did pick up the the Initiative of the Sands, that's the card I'm looking for. He does have the Auric Runehammer here, so you could drop it and just swing in for lethal regardless.
Yeah, with only 4 power, Visarius did make the correct play there to not play the Kothan. Island's Choice was his out, so he played it correctly and got the Crystallize.
Yep, and he will take down that game. So Visarius picking it up, we're going to go down to a deciding game 5, and just this brutal mirror that's come down to in that game both players not being able to find a fifth power, or in Moosh's case, the double primal sigils cast crystallize.
Alrighty. Someone's getting iced. We'll see who.
Yeah, certainly. And it's interesting. We didn't see Party that game at all. That was more of just a little TJP slugfest back and forth. Lots of Awakened students, Sandstorm Titans, and Valkyrie Enforcers, as well as those Rune Hammers really coming into play for both players.
Yeah, so Darius looks like Seek Power and Initiative Sands. That's not amazing. Getting stuck on 2 would be a good way to lose a game 5. I don't know that Visarius wants to take that risk, even though his other stuff is looking pretty good. He's got the Crystallize, he's got Amber Acolyte to fix for it. Like, you could keep this hand if you wanted to be risky, and he does, in fact.
Oh, yeah, this is a very interesting keep right here. He's even going to go for the Initiative of the Sands. That way he can power himself out, although I don't really see the point in doing it this way around.
Yeah, I do like this that he has the Initiative of the Sands to play the Acolyte next turn, but the problem is that he still has to Seek Power, so he's not necessarily guaranteed the Acolyte. Moosh doesn't really have any way to interact with Initiate, though, so it should be fine.
Yeah, it should be fine here. And Moosh keeping an interesting hand of his own. And Visarius getting rewarded a little bit for going for the early initiate, is able to find that undepleted power, drops the Amber Acolyte ahead of Curve, and now he's picked up his Justice. He'll be able to use the Seek power to go find his first Primal, though he will be looking.
Yeah, he'll be looking for the second. He'll also be looking for things to play into the Crystallize. I think being greedy for the Crystallize is definitely not a wrong decision here. It's been the deciding card in all of these matchups so far. But, like, it's gonna be rough to see if he can set it up this turn. He's got all of the blue he needs. He's got Seraph, huge amount of pressure. He needs Obelisk. He needs Sandstorm Titan. He needs something big.
Yeah, and we'll see
And
how the
Moosh.
we'll see the response back and forth here. Like, I don't think the Crystallize is quite good enough this early, though. Visarius, if he chose to, could push a lot of potential damage here in the following few turns just with the Crystallize and the Vanquish. It's not going to be good enough here, though, so he'll just try to be pressure some early damage through.
Kind of an awkward setup here with the Seek powers. He can play at least enough to get Kothan down, and then like he's got enough 2-drops to just sort of get going. So it's a decent amount of tempo. Visarius has the Auric Runehammer in response, which is actually pretty crippling. And attacking with Seraph at this point is probably his one option, which I'm actually surprised he didn't go for.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised he didn't go with that either. I guess he wants to hold it back. That way the Kothon can't get in and knock the hammer off for free.
Yeah.
Or at least, force a jump block out. So I guess it makes some degree of sense. Probably the smarter play in the long run here, though Visarius doesn't have a ton going on outside this removal, and Mush's hand is filled with threats.
Yeah, so we see another target for the Auric Runehammer, and a pretty appealing one at that. Sorius might definitely want to knock that off instead of the Kothan if he feels the need. That would allow him to attack with Seraph pretty unimpeded and start pushing damage for the Crystallize.
Yep, and the lower he can get Moosh, the more effective this Crystallize is going to be. Once Moosh finally does commit the Sandstorm Titan, obviously Visarius has the Vanquish in his back pocket for that. Though Moosh does have that Auric Runehammer of his own and the power and influence to cast it, so that'll likely knock off the Seraph and really slow this game down. And yeah, Moosh picks up a second Sandstorm Titan too, so he's going to be in a favorable position in the board.
Yeah, there's an offer of a trade for Kothan that Visarius is probably happy to take, having 6 power already. Getting to 8 is kind of relevant for Xenon Obelisk purposes, but Visarius has not been the one who's been super dependent on those obelisks. So we're seeing instead, well, Visarius has the Kothan, which is not too bad. He can Vanquish and Kothan and then have some Flyers next turn, which is still not going to be great against the second Titan, but gets him somewhere.
Well, this is actually pretty good too. Like it's not the position Visarius wants to be in, but this does make Moosh playing the Sandstorm Titan not super likely here. Makes the Auric Runehammer or the Valkyrie Enforcer a little more likely, because if Visarius can hit the undepleted power next turn, Seraph is going to start spinning, and we could see some very big hits out of Seraph.
To a lot of extra value and basically just gives Visarius an even wider board to crystallize into. With the crystallize, he's actually looking very, very strong. He's got 5, 6, 7, 8 damage here, so a crystallize would be next turn lethal if it wasn't Sandstorm Titan in the next round.
Yeah, as well as the Kothon, since the Kothon will at least provide him another jump blocker. So Fly is pretty dead in Visarius' hand at this given moment. That being said, as we just alluded to, Moosh really has some decisions to make here. If he goes for the Sandstorm Titan, he's really risking the Crystallize coming down. I think Valkyrie Enforcer is... Wow, that was actually really interesting. I'm surprised he takes the Kothon out first, given he has the Titan in hand.
Yeah, well, he's got 2 problems to deal with at this point. It's not just Kothan. He's also got a Seraph that's going to be activated next turn. So he's basically relying on Visarius not to have his 8th power so that he can Auric Runehammer and take out the Seraph as well. Because if he lets it get into Seraph, like, that's such a big deal. And knocking that out of Visarius' board means that the board is a lot weaker for Visarius now.
Yeah, definitely. And we do see Sandstorm Titan picked up by Visarius, so solid here for him. But Moosh has one to answer of his own, and this is going to bring us to a board stall, as well as if Moosh can find a 6th power, he can go ahead and activate his Kothon. The Sandstorm Titans will hold it down, but it'll make him an extra 4/4, put more bodies on his board.
Lucius so far handily resolved all of the threats on Visarius' board. He's not playing that many good threats of his own, but he's keeping them alive and he's keeping them unsilenced, so that's helping him out quite a bit. Sandstorm Titan here works out quite well. He actually opts to knock the Initiate out to make Obelisks and Seraphs less likely. And Visarius playing an Awakened Student doesn't have either of those cards, so isn't going to get like particularly punished by that.
Yeah, Visarius just leading out with this Awakened Student here as well. Moosh likely to drop his next Aura Gruen Hammer and go ahead and clean this up, which will create another attack for him the following turn, taking care of probably the Kothon. And taking a lot off this board. And we see Moosh does have another Valkyrie Enforcer, and he did pick up an Initiate here, so this will get him a little higher up on power, and notably that will get him to that Kothon activation, so we'll see the extra body coming down.
This is an interesting attack from Moosh. It gets rid of his only endurance unit, which makes Crystallize a lot scarier. But he will be able to follow up with a little bit of something. And Moosh has drawn his own Crystallize, so if he can find a way to kill that Sandstorm Titan, he can start pushing in for his own damage and really making the board look very scary.
Yeah, he will need a second Primal Influence, though. Ooh, Visarius now picking up the Scouting Party. Yeah, Scouting Party, if Moosh can't find that next Primal here, this could be the swing that we were looking for Visarius.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where Initiative of the Sands, while giving him the necessary power he needs to play cards, is not really helping him to fix for cards. And yeah, like rough now. Moosh does not have blue, so he can basically create some blockers, but that's not going to help against the Crystallize.
Yep, Crystallize is going to come in here, take care of the Initiative of the Sands. Moosh did at least go ahead and activate his Kothon while he still was able to. And Crystallize coming down now. Let's see what we draw up here for Visarius. Bunch of damage getting pushed as well. I believe this is going to be 8 across. So,
yeah.
Or sorry, 7. Yeah, of course, Kothon still unchecked due to his endurance.
Kothon's endurance is definitely a pretty big deal. Visarius picking up an Island's Choice. No major help there, but it does keep an owl off his back. Amber Acolyte is the other card here, so Visarius is definitely filling up the board. And Moosh doesn't have bad responses. Like, he can still get a Crystallize and get himself into a position of strength.
He's still... Oh, now he Crystallized. Yeah, he did pick up that Seed of Order, giving him the second Primal. So Crystallize is now going to be active, though he is going to go for the Valkyrie Enforcer and silence the Awakened Student.
Yeah,
to create another blocker for himself.
I like the line where he sets himself up with a better, like, lethal board. Although Island's Choice is the answer to the Crystallize, and Visarius is always going to have the power open for that.
Yeah, and we're seeing Awakened Student going to go ahead and try and get in here for that 3 extra damage. Moosh actually just going to let it go, trying to set himself up. I don't think he has lethal, though. No, he's holding 12. If he does pick up an Obelisk, obviously, that would do it. Crystallize is going to go for the Crystallize play. This is definitely going to have to hit it.
Yeah, would have been a great Crystallize, but unfortunately, you don't want to make Island's allies her enemies, so we're going to just see to stand still. He does put in quite a few attacks. I think he's actually just trying to be super aggressive in the air, and I do kind of like this line of play. He's left with 3 blockers, none of which are vanquishable. And he can at least trade with the Awakened Student, which is silenced at the moment, so he doesn't have too bad of a setup. He's going to take 2 damage from the Yetis, but I think he still has lethal in the air, so that's a pretty good line of attack.
Yeah, he had Kothon. Really, the only threat here would have been the Obelisk, and since Visarius didn't pick it up, that's going to seal the game. Moosh is going to take down the series 3-2 with all these flyers in the air. Visarius taking the concession, of course.
Yeah, even absent the Crystallize, Moosh found his way to 2-turn lethal, so very good play from Moosh, and good play from both players. Sorry is unfortunately getting a little bit unlucky there, maybe playing a little bit fast and loose, and yeah, just got himself knocked out.